North America pitted against China in just a few moments' time here for the mid-season brawl, as I am joined once again at the analysis chair thingy by, of course, Mr. Tetcher, we have Grubby, and we do have Jayhow. Not actually in that order. I just thought I'd mix it up a bit for variance, for craziness. As, of course, looking at this match that we have coming up, Tempo Storm versus eStar. Actually, this feels like a very equal match, considering what we have seen so far in the tournament. Perhaps what's to come.
Yeah, I think there's two ways to enjoy Heroes of the Storm here in this tournament. One is to see really good execution, even if it's a bit of a wipe. First two series, they were not close, but it's fun to see how fast you can win, especially when compared to some of our Hero League games, where it seems like all games will go past 15 minutes, maybe get to 20, 25 minutes, so common. But here you can see that kind of surgical execution with sub 10-minute wins, sub level 10 wins for the defeated one. But now I think we're going to have the kind of enjoyment where we don't know who's going to be winning, where it's a lot closer with eStar and Tempo Storm.
Yeah. Feels like a match where the Tempo Storm has shown us quite a lot of relatively slow play, so they will be defending against some of that aggression coming out from eStar. Is that a fair assessment?
I'd say so, but the fact is Tempo Storm can still play with aggression as well. If they play more like they did yesterday as opposed to the first day, then I feel a lot more comfortable about their chances versus eStar. But eStar play against some of the most aggressive teams in the world in the Chinese HGC. They are experienced playing against it. Tempo Storm are going to have to bring it.
The thing about it is, we talk about the contrast in style, and the minute the heat got turned up on Tempo Storm yesterday in game number 2, it did not go well.
Yeah.
I was looking at some stats last night and this morning, and I tweeted this out earlier. Xingxi himself has more than half of the damage done of the entire Tempo Storm team through 4 games. He is just a man on a mission carrying this team, and obviously he has a lot around him to support him.
Yeah.
But this is, if you want to talk about aggressive team versus passive team and one player versus a team, this is it.
All right, let's focus on Tempo Storm here to begin things off, as there is June as well. What can you guys tell me about Tempo Storm, considering what's happened so far in the tournament, as well as maybe what's to come?
Well, I feel like they're a very tactical team. Their strengths are macro play, avoiding fights, manipulating the map, and pushing buttons in the right places, rather than going, third guy. Thinking, not sure what to make of that thing. That's a camera. Yeah,
We use them all the time. It's all good.
but they play very smart, I think. Like, rather than reacting to what they see, they make another move, force the opponent to react to them. Their big question mark is, can they take straight up fights? This is something that eStars will be looking for. They'll either dodge eStars team fight forever, or they need to change something crucial today to the point where they do not need to feel insecure about taking those fights. I love Fury's Johanna play, by the way.
As
very good.
But yeah, Tempo Storm went very effectively first in the NAHGC, but now that they've come here, they've had some inconsistent series over the first 2 days, so they're going to be looking to prove it here, especially seeing as eStar did beat Team Dignitas. Tempo are going to be like, oh, everyone's got all this hype over Dignitas?
Yeah.
No, this is how you do it. So they're going to be looking for something to prove.
This strategy works so well in North America. I hate to harp on it too much, but it's literally just a plotting, methodical strategy of we'll play the map. And it's just, you see the contrast. We see Fnatic, they've adopted an early aggressive strategy. We see these teams evolve over time, and we're still waiting for Tempo to evolve from, we're just going to play the map, to, we'll also mix in a little bit of team fighting and then punish you heavily. They don't punish heavily, they punish enough to win. I want to see more.
Well, on the other side, we do have eStar, as we can take a bit more of a deeper dive on those guys. Of course, they've, from my perception at least, and I think this is probably echoed down the line, looked very good this tournament. Probably at the peak in the past year and a half or so. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think a few things stand out from eStar this tournament. First of all, their modesty, their humility. They have studied other teams. They've respected them. They don't wax grandly about themselves. Secondly, they said that their new members have brought stability to their team fight, and those looked very on point, right up there with the top level of play. And then finally, they are finally bringing a worthy performance to a world stage of something that we've been hyping basically for more than a year. And so I feel like this is eStar's tournament to prove it, that China is a super world-class region, and that they in particular are.
Xingxi is averaging almost 5 kills per game in 4 games. I just wonder how that will measure up against this Tempo Storm team, who admittedly avoids team fights based on maps that they pick, the play style that they play. I wonder if eStar can really dive in on this team.
Well, what I want to see from Tempo is I want to see their macro play come from a place of power. Speaking from back when I was pro gaming myself, sometimes if I feel very insecure about my equipment, my setup, my mentality, I avoid fights on purpose because I don't feel confident about it. I don't want Tempo to avoid fights for that reason. I want them to do it because it's another valid way to play the game. This part is beautiful to see, but when it finally comes down to a fight, they need to also have a good level in that one.
We have seen a couple situations, we mentioned it just a bit ago, about which tempo is being brought to the game. This is an issue that eStar had throughout the Chinese HGC, where there were times where it's like, which eStar is showing up? Are they going to be the world-class team, or are they going to be a bit and they're going to just play weird stuff and lose? There is no sign so far of that eStar at this event. It is the world-class team that has shown up.
Well, we have the bans and picks in, and it was Sky Temple first, and then Warhead Junction afterwards by pick of Tempo Storm.
Yes, second time this
Go
tournament
figure.
that Tempo Storm chooses Warhead Junction. They did so against Red Canids in the opening match for them of this tournament. They played it very well with an Illidan composition as well. So let's see what they're going to be bringing out there. But first, it's going to be Sky Temple, which is eStar's choice.
That's right. First game here between the two as we get into the draft. What are we thinking, guys?
Well, we mentioned the Illidan just a second ago. Both teams have very solid Illidan play. X for eStar showed that he has some exceptionally strong play on Infernal, was the map that they last played it on. So we could see that maybe sneaking into the draft for either of these teams. But for now, Tyrael getting some respect, finally going in for a first ban.
I think that's the first Tyrael first ban of this tournament.
That's correct. And it almost always happens when we have a truly international tournament. Slowly but surely. I mean, apart from maybe the BlizzCon 2 years ago, where Tyrael from the get-go was like really a very good, strong pick or whatever. Like, Tyrael slowly rises up and eventually finds those ban spots, and then that's how it goes.
Zeratil's the same, but this time we've actually seen in almost all the HGCs, Zeratil's been getting a lot of respect. But Uther making his way through the draft, leaving the Genji over to eStar if they want it. Uther is probably the most effective support against Genji, but is the hero just too good to pass up?
And the thing about it is, draft strategy-wise, is that Genji, will eStar prioritize that over the Vala or over the Greymane that we know Xingxi loves to play? And if not, Genji would be played by Xingxi. Alternatively, you would now, or just go straight into Illidan.
No chill, no relax, and the Amethyst straight away.
All right, but either way, now on the other side, Tempo Storm now can decide, do they want Greymane or Genji for themselves? And I think that fits directly into their draft strategy here.
Just pointing out that eStar was planning this and felt it coming, because that's why you would ban Dahaka, who is pretty nice against Abathur.
All that being said, though, if Genji finds an opportunity to find an isolated Abathur, there's no reason he can't.
Yeah, it's the travel time across the map, really, that Dahaka cuts down on. That's the nice part.
Yeah.
Of course, Genji can hunt Abba, but it's almost never without a price and a risk. What if he leaves before you get there?
True.
So there is a big selection of heroes here that Tempo Storm could be taking. If they wanted something to really attempt to deal with the Illidan, Arthas is very much top of that list. But we still already mentioned there's Valor to try and remove from Xingxi, or Greymane to take one, maybe ban the other. There is the Genji, who we've already talked about. They have a lot of options.
I think that...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, the thing that scares me the most is that you knowingly pick Illidan into an Uther, which is really scary. Divine Storm seems like a completely viable option. Murden does really well because he can do so well to slow attack speed and things like that to a diving Illidan. You already have two very strong heroes, two very strong Illidan counters, and Tyrael has been taken away from you. So now you are reliant heavily on Abathur supporting that Illidan as the main cog to do well diving in against this composition.
I think Tempo Storm just made a huge mistake. They basically have 3 heroes that are really poor at wave clear on a big map, Sky Temple, where team fights can entirely be avoided. And then you're up against Abathur, You've got 3 heroes with no wave clear. To me, this is a draft loss already for Tempo Storm, no matter what else they do. They have one out here, in my opinion. And you gotta tell me, Jehao, what if you think that this is something Tempo Storm plays. Vikings?
No. If anything, my first thought is Falstad for the global.
It's not enough.
And Zagara.
Oh, that could work.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 thoughts. When I think of Tempo Storm, those are the 2 heroes. We're talking about Koth and Luck at this point, right? Koth and Luck and Caterpillar, those roles have to be filled. Genji can be played by a Cat. I think it should be played by Psalm. But you start looking at Koth and heroes, and Zagara and Falstad are right in his wheelhouse on heroes that he plays.
It's so hard. You go Zagara against Illidan. Once you get to level 10, she can't be anywhere.
You cannot push into the lane.
Yeah.
If there isn't that global to deal with, if they want to, eStar can in theory even avoid that moving around the map with the Hunt, and can instead go for Metamorphosis to give Illidan a bit more safety against the Uther or the Muradin if he starts dropping low.
It really doesn't matter what he gets. Illidan, no matter what, he has 3 escapes. Abathur will never be caught by any of this. eStar can literally just end the game with 0 takedowns.
I'm going to throw this out here. We talk about wave clear. We talk about Illidan counters. There's a throwback old school option.
Give it to me. I need something here. Okay. Yeah. Sylvanas is nice because you need to win the early game against Abba Illidan on this map. That's why I was thinking maybe they'll go Vala Ariel or something. You have Vala Ariel Uther, apply heavy pressure, be ahead even before the first temple phase. But this doesn't do it. Well, with Sylvanas, maybe?
Sylvanas, maybe. Tempo Storm was actually one of the first teams that really started actively doing this towards the end of last year, is that they would pick up Li Ming. Oh, they're just going all in. Oh my God.
Okay.
I talked about King Kong as Abathur, but well, if you've got
and Vala.
Is it 2015?
Okay, so this is either a solo support TAS or it's a
no tank comp?
No tank. But it doesn't matter. Like I said, they're just going to play the map. They don't care about drafts at this point. They just need heroes that can get away easily.
So, quick suggestion. Like you said, they need map stuff to deal with, but in terms of if they were to team fight, could Lili fit into this comp? Maybe a damage Lili?
For tempo?
You've got plenty of...
Sure, but that's another hero that can't wave clear. You cannot only team fight on this map. There's no way. Remember how eStars dismantled before on, I think it was Infernal Shrines? They have Abba, they just put 2 in top push, 2 in bot push, don't let enemy team rotate.
Rhaegar,
oh, Cassia.
Little bit of extra wave clear with Fend, but it's not on the level of some of the other heroes we were talking about.
Rhaegar and Cassia do help.
Yes,
but that is not... I'm with Grubby on this one. The wave clear looks really weak. The blinds are going to help a lot, right? You have two auto attack heroes. The problem is you can go the bigger radius, but I think you're going to fall into the thing that Illidan's going to be here, Vala's going to be here, and it's going to be hard to hit both of them. So you got to pick your poison. And Tassadar, priority shielding is going to be key. We're talking about 4-second shields on an 8-second cooldown. I think priority targeting on who you shield and when you shield, whether it's Illidan diving in or whether it's going to be Vala who needs that amplified healing from that. You've got to pick and choose your spots. And we know they love to force Xingzi to carry them, but X, he's going to go in.
So looking at the 3 days that have passed so far, watching eStar draft, just draft alone, never mind playing the video game, is that must-see TV for the rest of the tournament? Because, oh my God, every single draft that they do has just got some spice, some flair. They're throwing everything in there. They're the Gordon Ramsay of drafts.
Before this event, I would have said eStar's drafting might have been their weakest point. At this event, I am saying that they have turned it up and they have brought exactly what they need.
I talked to Kendrick, your co-caster for China. He told me that their drafting was weak as well. We talked about this,
We've
right?
seen them draft some bad stuff.
We specifically
in China.
talked about this. We were discussing it beforehand, talking about eStar coming into this event, and he's like, their drafting's bad. But now, I think they're just like, you know what, we don't care what anybody else has to say. Like, we're 4-0. We're coming in looking for more.
All right, Grubby, I want to start with you for predictions, please.
eStar, easy win. I think. I mean, I love Tempo Storm. I like the guys. I like their playstyle. I like, everything about them. But I feel like this draft, just when it couldn't get any worse, it did. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
eStar.
Jehao?
Give me eStar. Give me eStar. NA versus China over here. I'm going eStar, though.
That, or at the moment, our desk looks like a very interesting game of chess. Unfortunately, the black pieces are losing currently to our white pieces. Sorry about that. But
I'm really bad at chess.
yeah? Is that how that works?
I just want to say I hope I'm wrong, because it's an interesting draft by eStar. I hope we get a close game.
All right, well, thank you very much, gents. We're going to check in with you after our first game, of course, as we get Tempo Storm. Going to be going up against eStar here. It's in favor of eStar right now in the chat. We're going to head over to Trick and, of course, Kaldor.
Thank you, Kalaris. You're so darn handsome. Now, Kaldor, can Tempo Storm handle this draft from eStar?
I have to take you with the panel here. I think it's going to be really, really rough for them. And as Fury said on Twitter a bit earlier today, there's a lot that hinges on the result here for them. They need a few wins against eStar, and right now we see them starting. To the left, you have Sky Temple, our first map with June on Uther, with Cattle on Genji, Fury on Muradin up at that front line, Cawthon on Cassia, and Psalm on the Rega.
To the far right, in the red, eStar here. Here they are. We're going to have X on Illidan, H playing Abathur, Tiger on Tassadar, Xingzi on Vala, and SW will be playing the Ariel. Now, I do want to give a little bit of kudos here to Tempo Storm. While we did watch them the other day play on Sky Temple, it was a bit slow and methodical, and to the point where it felt like they were never taking any risk, but they seem to understand how important this battleground can be and how quickly it can snowball out of proportion. So Tempo Storm, with them seeing what eStar has here, I expect them to at least put some pressure on their opponents.
They have to. They have to try and find a few kills here. They have a couple of stuns that they can stack, which is, I think, a bit of a saving grace for them. It's the one opening they have into the game, just getting that Muradin stun, following up with Uther, and trying to use Cassia with a quick fend and the damage output to simply blow a target up. Because let's face it, once that eStar starts losing heroes, it's going to be a rough, and this is a good start for them. Taking Illidan out up at the top lane gives them a bit of momentum here as they are trying to pressure eStar.
Question, why would you dive into 3 members, even with an Abathur hat, and a blind from Cassia? Not even sure why Savage even took that trade.
Maybe a little bit of confident here. We know that the Chinese, they really love to fight, but in this case, he, a bit too much here. Overall, I have to say, later when we're going into a 5 versus 5 stage of the game, Tempo Storm is going to have a bit of a rough time in these team fights. But as we all know, Sky Temple is a map where you can try and play around your opponent. It's something that our panel has alluded to as well. You need to go for these objectives, and I'm curious if Tempo Storm might find a way to take eStar down here.
We'll see if they can pull it off here, and Savage continues to be aggressive here in the bottom lane against Cattle. Cattle happily taking that trade as he has multiple minions to help him out with that engage. Now, the top 3 here, the Tassadar, Ariel, and Vala, this trio of members are very devastating together, especially in a lane. So we're going to watch for them as they push in that top.
We have seen Xingzi for eStar Gaming on that Vala perform to an absolute incredible level when he's supported by 2 supports. And in this case, you have even an Abathur that can jump in if need be. Usually we would see Abathur focus a bit more on Illidan, but depending on how the map works and where they fight, we could see him also on the Vala. And this is a real threat, especially with how well he plays. He knows exactly how far he can go.
We'll see how far he can go as Tassadar will be rotating down, giving up that top as Rhaegar took over the lane for a little bit. Illidan will head up there instead to deal with the Rhaegar, but the trio is back here in the middle, and Fury and crew are dancing around, but at some point you need to engage. There it is. Stormbolt comes out, Cattle dives in.
Now let's just face it, Tempo Storm has a very decent lead in experience that granted them an early level 4 talent. eStar has now caught up and is able to fight on even talents, but Tempo Storm is still maintaining a slight lead here and nearly accumulates to an entire level by now. To the top we have Illidan taking one of the temples, Abathur of course with the experience soak at that bot lane. But at this moment in time, Tempo Storm still doing fairly well in the early game.
Yes, eStar takes the lead here because they get more control over the temples to take out multiple turrets and get the sieging going from there. You would expect Tempo Storm to take a lead in the experience due to an Abathur being on the opposing side, but with eStar controlling those temples so well and having proper rotations to handle Tempo Storm and their movement, they're in a great spot as they move up.
Now when we're talking about the builds, we already have Cattle working towards a ping pong build on Genji, going straight into the Swift Strike here. And also in addition to that, we have Abathur with a few adjustments. Going on level 1 into the regenerative microbes, trying to get that extra shield and regeneration. And level 4 then the Adrenal Overload. And that's of course really one of the best talents if you are playing with an Illidan and even with a Vala here. But Vala with a hybrid going into the punishment, fight at the bot lane, and talking Vala, she is down. Xingzi taken apart as Tempo Storm goes in with the double stun and uses Cassia to deliver the final blow. blow.
Tempo Storm playing the appropriate way here to break down an opposing team that is running this type of composition. Put pressure on them and get a couple of takedowns where you can. Even had a chance to get Tassadar, but Tassadar with a solid juke will be able to escape from that area. Tempo Storm moving into level 7 right now and getting themselves set up, but we're still frightened for them. If they get to level 10 and are even footing against an Abathur comp, it's where it could get scary. Savage in trouble on the right side, though, and Tempo Storm continues to do it.
Yeah, Tempo's doing really well here to the top. Abathur was attempting to help out Illidan, but then with Rhaegar jumping in and Genji just simply hunting him down, he could not even escape over the wall here. There's another thing, though, that I want to point out real quickly, and this is the level 4 talent that we have on the side of Tiger on his Tassadar. We have Kala's Light taken. Now, after the Tassadar buffs, a lot of people have been talking about the 90% life leech that you have available on level 4. But with the setup that we are seeing here, eStar has basically identified that one of the ways that Tempo Storm could really win a team fight is by eliminating with a good stun combo a target. So going into Kala's Light and attempting to get that extra armor is really huge for them to keep those key heroes like Illidan and Vala alive in a big battle.
Speaking about talents here, look at level 7 here for Abathur, picking up the Mule, trying to help out with the temples and then showing away. What do you think about that pick?
I actually like Mule quite a bit. It can be a great talent on a map like Sky Temple. It's probably one of the best maps for the talent. So I think in the setup that they are running here, Mule helps them quite a bit. It's also one of those things that just delays the map even longer. It drags everything out, and that's where especially an Abathur, Illidan, and also with that Vala just gets more and more momentum. So they really try to play for the late game as well.
Tempo Storm set themselves up here, moving on Ariel. She's low on health and will fall. Tempo Storm earning another kill, looking for more. Tassadar drops out the dimensional shift and will retreat, but this does give up the temple over to Tempo Storm, and they'll be able to shell away on that bottom fort.
Now, the problem that eStar Gaming has currently is that Abathur is still at level 10. Therefore, you miss out on the copy, and you cannot go into these fights with the additional hit point pool that offers. But Tempo Storm is doing this really well, as we could see in the last few fights. They have 4 kills against 0. The big question just is, what happens after level 10? And Tempo, therefore, is trying to increase the lead they have for as much as they can. They know they have their 10s. There's no way for eStar to really contest here, so they go for the boss immediately, and this should be a free boss for them.
eStar coming in here to harass slightly, but shouldn't dive in, and they do not. The boss goes over, as you mentioned, completely free here for Tempo Storm, and they're in a great spot, man. I want to yell out some kudos to Tempo Storm. The other day, I criticized a little bit. They were a little bit passive on this battleground in particular, but today, identifying what their opponents have and what they need to do, they are executing perfectly, pushing in the bottom lane here with the boss, grabbing giants as well. Can start breaking down those forts to make that Mule obsolete.
Yep, so down here we have the first fort going down. The level 10, as we said, is going to be really important. Keep in mind, there is no real tank on the side of eStar. This is like the biggest thing when we're looking at their setup. So the only real melee hero that they have with this is the Illidan. And once you start carrying the momentum into your opponent's backline, if you get the first kill, it's very difficult for Tempo Storm to disengage. So it's all about momentum here for them. And they finally have the level 10. Let's see if they can use it. Already a Force Wall and the Detainment striking a good combo to stun a target out, but they cannot follow up just yet, especially since we still have Illidan down at the bottom. But Vala is really starting to go to town here.
Taking some damage here. Ancestor healing perfect here, coming out, and from June healing up the Cassia. Here's the hunt as we're going to have Illidan flying in. Savage gets blinded immediately here. However, Cassia does fall.
Cassia goes down, and X is still trying to go in here. Fury with a quick Stormbolt helping out. This could have been even worse. At that point, they lost 1 hero, but they could have lost so much more here. There was a very well-executed retreat on the side of Tempo Storm. Here comes the stun combo. Rhaegar, on the other hand, falls as he dives in for the bite. And you can really tell how much of a difference this is now that we have level 10 available for eStar Gaming.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. Level 10 hitting here. The Rain of Vengeance being helpful for the Cassia to stop her armor, her trait being there. Savage is getting locked down here. Uther helping out with a stun. We're gonna do a pretty solid amount of job of damage killing Savage, but he gets away with half the health there as Ariel will top him off, and now with Temples activated here in the middle and the bottom, it's all about the objective.
Also, think for a moment of how this fight actually started. When we had the fight towards the mid lane, towards the right, it was a 4 versus 5. Illidan came in way late after he defended against the boss at the bot lane, and the level 10 was available to them. He went in with a hunt, but it was towards the end of the fight already. Up to that point, it was really all about Vala dishing out the damage and Jingzi really delivering here. Tempo Storm, this is really the time where they have to be careful because eStar is picking up a lot of momentum now.
SW with the perfect attainment strike hitting Cattle into the wall here. They're going to turn around and put some damage on him. He's going to try and deflect where he can, but he gets blown up. They're going to have June come out with the Divine Storm, trying trying to slow down the opposing members, but Savage is not stopped at all. He continues to chase another Detainment Strike into the Force Wall.
Double Vala with that down. They go in once again. Detainment Strike into the Force Wall was great. X is a bit too deep. No fear, no shame. He just moves in and gets supported by the Tassadar and the Oriole. All that trust on Illidan here. Instead of moving backwards, just driving the momentum into the heart of Tempo Storm. And the two supports, they got his back and keep him alive here. So now all of a sudden we have 4 kills against 6 since level 10 hit. For eStar Gaming, Tempo Storm hasn't gotten a single kill, and eStar just got 6 kills in the last 2 team fights.
Yeah, that's a reminder. Tempo Storm was ahead here, going 10-9. Really remember they took that boss, pushing that bottom. Now eStar ahead 14-12. Abathur double soaking during that entire fight as well, helping his team continue to move forward. The objective's starting to be controlled, and you're seeing really the rewards coming here. The top fort low on health. Members are starting to fall apart here as W's holding down the bottom. Forts are falling.
Yeah, also talking about forts, we have in the mid lane a fort on half health for eStar Gaming. That's mule value right there. So they can just repair that over time now, especially since they start to control the map. I want to point something else out. We have Piercing Lash taken on level 13 now for Oriole. So they are really committing to that combo with a Force Wall and Tassadar, and now the cooldown reduction and multiple stuns that they can achieve here. And they do it again. The execution on that combo is just absolutely beautiful to watch.
Been quite flawless so far, but with an Ultimate Evolution coming out, Tempo Storm watching out for the fight, going to try and take it underneath the fort. The Force Wall prevents them from coming in from a full engage, though. June in particular being zoned out, so he can't hit that Divine Storm. We're going to have multiple members taking damage here on H, but remember, that is the Ultimate Evolution clone.
Yeah, here comes the Ancestral once again. The hunt goes in, the stun is good, but Oriole with a save, using her ult, and once again, Illidan committing. Cassia is falling, the Force Wall, perfect, just completely shutting off the path of retreat. Rhaegar is dying as well, and it's just eStar completely obliterating Tempo Storm on Sky Temple.
Heads up play there from eStar Gaming too. The moment that fort fell down, the anchor for Tempo Storm was lost, and they moved in for the full-on aggression, got a couple of kills, and moving into the keep now. Keep wall has been burned out. X is not stopping here, man. He keeps charging forward. He's on top of a fort. He has a Tassadar shield. He does not care.
Did you pay attention how to the clone on Abathur? They just can't kill it. The entire time, Xingzi can do whatever he wants, because first of all, you have Illidan wreaking havoc in the middle of the opponent's team, but then also the Vala clone is going way more aggressive, positioning himself in front of the real Vala and dishing out damage. They're trying to take her down, but every single time the double support is there, healing her up once again. This is just absolutely brutal what we are witnessing here. And it gets worse, since in 16, Oriole now committed also to the Will of Heaven. That's another 20% attack speed for Vala or Illidan, depending on the situation.
Tempo Storm probably has one more team fight in them before this game gets out of control, and I would argue it's probably out of control already. Getting to a point where they can break down a support and break this composition down has been difficult, to say the least. eStar Gaming sitting around this boss, willing to potentially start a fight soon here, as it's only one of the main objectives that they have to worry about.
I would argue that what you need is really the resets for Genji. Get a bit more damage in with him, and once you get a snowball started, you might have a chance here. But eStar is rocking this setup without a single tank, only using Illidan as that front line in beautiful fashion. The amount of sustain they have is fantastic, and Illidan also, with the hunt as a pseudo-global, is just side-soaking the entire time and joins only for the team fights. It gives them that 3-level lead that we're currently seeing here on the board.
Tempo Storm realizing that they only have one more fight left in them before it gets too crazy, or even starting to group up. A talent disadvantage and looking for a fight. Detainment Strike hits Fury here on the left. The hunt comes out. They're diving in on Psalm. The Rhaegar low on health. Rhaegar does fall. Big Divine Storm, not really hitting too much here.
Vala down on the other hand. That's a big one. That's a really big one. Can they take down the copy? They're trying. But Cassia falls, and so does Uther. Tempo Storm get the initial kill against Vala, but now they're losing 4 heroes in a row. Murden eliminated. And the only survivor is the Ninja. Genji on the way back as Tiger moves in with a Force Wall and nearly takes him down as well. eStar Gaming, Trixler, they are on fire right now.
They are crisp right now when it comes to these fights. And now they get the temples. One here in the middle, one on the top. And they're hitting keeps here. Second keep will be hit here in the middle, burned down pretty quickly. And eStar Gaming, all they have to do is just make sure to wait for their Vala to respawn. They continue moving forward on the battleground here and really just snowballing this great mid game they've had into the late game.
Yeah, the early game, this is where eStar Gaming struggled a bit against Tempo Storm. That was to be expected, but now that we have all these tools to keep heroes alive, the combo also with Force Wall and Detainment Strike to isolate targets, and Illidan just never dying. This is exactly what they need. A big help, of course, is also the Soma Transference on level 13 from Abathur. That really helps whichever target he chooses for his symbiote. Vala even dying in that last fight, usually having a huge impact in these battles. But even without her, they could easily turn it around and go for a fantastic trade. Tempo Storm, they have the 16 now though. Maybe now.
Smallest of windows. In fact, that window has already closed. Not even a breeze here for Tempo Storm. They're moving in for a little bit of aggression, but look at eStar Tiger. Positions for a Force Wall. It connects. Psalm's already at half health, and they haven't traded any damage out.
Illidan is on the core, and that's the copy. They're not even caring. They're just trying to prevent them from portaling back. They have the nowhere to hide. Illidan moved in. Abathur copies him, and they're saying, why would we even fight here? We just end the game. This is over. eStar takes down Tempo Storm on game number 1 on Sky Temple here. Fantastic performance by them. 14 kills against 5 at the end of the game. eStar with the lead.
Double the Illidan, double the fun. They dive the core here. Great job by the teammates holding them up in the top right corner. Nothing Tempo Storm could do at that point. They're in a really hard spot. But, of course, they have their next battlegrounds. They've chosen Warhead Junction. We'll talk about that soon, but I'm sure our panel has more about that game.
At that moment there, the one thing I want to really highlight with the last one was also the decision to just go for the core there. You have the nowhere to hide, you keep them in the fight at this point, and you can really prevent them from using the B back. And then with a copy on the Abathur, you can simply go with the double Illidan onto the core. The keep was already destroyed a bit earlier, and you have catapults also in the back. So that was just absolutely fantastic decision making by them.
Yeah, very difficult spot for Tempo Storm to be in. Now, I do think our panelists are ready to go. Let's go over to them and get their thoughts on that game.
Thank you very much, gents. Of course, it's interesting to me to watch how these games unfold, because I think if there was an MVP trophy for most entertaining team in this tournament, we would have already found our winner over the past couple of days. eStar just never fails to absolutely show up in the most flamboyant, ridiculous ways possible. What a game.
Yeah. I mean, eStar, they're so aggressive. They make these fringe situations work. Even the ending, the way they ended that court, that is so eStar.
So eStar. I want that hashtag trending. That is so eStar.
Hashtag so eStar.
Yeah.
Hashtag no tank, no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, when we see Abathur, I'm like, all right, that's going to be it. And it's Tassadar, and you're like, wait a minute. And all of a sudden you realize, like, you've still got to have another damage dealer to support. They don't care. They play whatever they want, and they make it look good. The thing about it is that everything that they played is actually something, one of their strengths. It's just you don't normally see them all together, and I think that was one of the fun things for that game.
Hey, how cool was that Force Wall Detainment Strike combination time after time again?
It felt, Tetra, like that was one of the bigger problems than anything else, actually, considering how they were able to utilize it.
We expected them to be super split pushy using the Hunt Illidan, and they did use it every now and again. But they still took team fights, and they just used that to great effect. They were just consistently CC, and Illidan just, well, he did exactly what he's supposed to do. He never died.
Yeah, very, very well done. I do believe we do have some replays, or a replay, J-How.
Oh, yeah. This one's good. This one's good right here, because we're just going to go ahead and frame it right now. Let's just pause it real quick, because this is kind of the indicator right now. We see Fury. He goes ahead and throws a Storm Bolt over, and that kind of enables the team over here, and you're going to see them start to come in. The whole thing, in the meantime, Xingxi. We talk about Xingxi so much, but we're going to see plays made by everybody. As we slowly roll it forward, the Storm Bolt goes out. Instantly, Cattle's like, wait a minute, this is an opportunity. Now you pause it, because there's the Detainment Strike. This is, everybody's making plays for eStar. So there it goes. And then you have Tiger, right? You went Force Wall, so you don't have Archon. You can't reset your E. So they're trying to put pressure on him. The whole time, if you look as Illidan over here, he finishes the camp, and now he thinks it's a time to come in. As we roll it forward now, and now he has a hunt target. And when he comes in, this seems like an ideal situation, but that is not a hero you can go. So he instantly dives up. Now, let's roll it back here, because there's a key moment that actually happened right before all this. I took your eyes away. It's like a magician, right? Fury is just getting annihilated by Xingxi this entire time. Now, as we go forward, we see Fury, who is one of the best Illidan counters, is basically pushed out of the fight single-handedly by Xingxi, who's still at full health. Now, they change their priority target directly onto Cawthon. And then, again, Force Walls keeping everything in. Now, this thing start to get a little bit dicey as eStar, or we see X start to collapse. Now, Cattle goes down. Things aren't done yet. As we pause real quick and run it back, we saw that June hits a massive Divine Storm, hitting multiple people. But the entire time, going back to that earlier point, Fury has been zoned out this entire time. Murden, of all people, is not able to re-engage. Now, as we go forward here, you're going to see everybody start to come in. Tiger's like, hey guys, don't forget about me, right? As now all of a sudden, Tempo Storm is on the back foot. They can't do anything. Divine Storm kind of fool's gold. They re-engage. Look for Tiger to come in here. There it goes. And then right on cue, there's another detainment strike, follow-up. Ancestral not able to land. And this will continue to move forward because when you have an Illidan, you can continue to do more. The fun thing is that, look, X has no health. He does not care. He gets stunned out again. Yeah. But there's another force wall. Everything works out perfectly in combination for eStar. I just, every single player on that team made a play at some point. And they called out every single one. They changed priority targets. They collapsed, and they functioned. That was chaotic to deal with. You could break that down in 100 different ways, but it was chaotic. I think Tempo Storm just had trouble dealing with that pressure.
I like that you chose that moment because there was one more thing at play. Absolutely amazing play by eStar, but it was a level 12 versus 12 fight. You get 6 forts on the side of Tempo, 4 forts on the side of eStar, and you look at the heroic cooldowns for Tempo. Ancestral, 18 seconds away. Avatar, 9 seconds away. Yeah. Because that was the case, that's why Murden gets zoned out. That's why everything else happened. But it's Tempo Storm that started that fight. They're like, oh, let's go for Tassadar, get the Detainment Strike and all that. So it's like there was no need for Tempo Storm to take that fight yet.
Agreed. Choosing that fight, I think, was the minute he hit that Storm Bolt. I don't know what the call was or who made it call. But the minute that Storm Bolt hit, Genji goes in. Now, normally Genji uses his E as a finisher, tries to get it within 2 seconds, things like that. But Tassadar was still at like half health. Yeah. And it's Tassadar who hasn't escaped. I was a little bit surprised at that collapse. Maybe it was just like feeling like the need to make a play. I think that was a misplay, as you said, to choose that fight. And the moment that they chose that fight, I think, was a little bit off.
He used his best escape. He used it to go in, and it's not a kill.
Well, we are going to be going to Warhead Junction for our second map between these two. Tetra,